Aokiji, the Blue Pheasant, was the first Marine Admiral to be introduced in the story. His real name is Kuzan, and he was one of the 3 original admirals. His codename, Blue Pheasant, reflects his ice-based abilities, which comes from the Logia-type devil fruit, Hiya no Mi. This fruit allows him to create, control, and transform into ice. Naturally, his abilities are not just destructive but practical as well, such as when he froze the ocean to help Tanjit cross over to the next island. Chapter 319. Now, Aokiji's sense of justice is a bit different from most Marines. He believes in an approach called lazy justice, because he knows that justice changes its shape depending on where you stand. Chapter 397. He spared Nico Robin during the Ohara incident by giving her an escape route, and later evaluated if it was the right decision by directly confronting the Straw Hat Pirates. After Marineford, he fought Admiral Akainu over the position of Fleet Admiral, and while he lost, the battle lasted for 10 days, and his ice-based powers permanently altered the climate of half of the island. Chapter 650. He decided to give up his position and leave the Marines. He then ended up joining the Blackbeard Pirates during the time skip. His motives are unclear, but considering how he is among the 12 key figures in the race for One Piece, it's clear that he sees Blackbeard as more of a means to an end. He definitely has his own agenda, which we currently don't know about. Chapter 1081. In terms of combat prowess, Kuzan trained under Vice Admiral Garp, and his armament haki is portrayed to be on par with his mentors. Keep in mind that he was able to trade blows with Garp, even though Garp has both armament and Conqueror's haki. However, it's worth noting that Garp was no longer in his prime. Chapter 1087. It's unlikely that Kuzan has Conqueror's haki himself, as it would likely have been revealed during his fight with Garp, but he does possess advanced armament and observation haki. At Marineford, he used advanced armament haki alongside Akainu and Kizaru to negate one of Whitebeard's destructive shockwaves. Ultimately, it's all but confirmed that every admiral has an advanced mastery of both armament and observation haki. They are the world government's greatest military powers after all. Chapter 550. Now, going back to his devil fruit, it's clear that even by Logia standards, his mastery is overpowered because he was able to not only use his powers for 10 days straight, but also permanently altered the climate of half of Punk Hazard. From what we know, his devil fruit may already be awakened. Kizaru, the Yellow Monkey, is the only one of the 3 OG admirals who is still active. His real name is Borsalino, and he is the only admiral that the Straw Hats have faced as an antagonist twice. First in Sabaudi Archipelago and then in Egghead. For Luffy, Kizaru was also an antagonist during the Marineford War. He talks slowly, but his devil fruit, the Pika Pika no Mi, literally gives him the power to manipulate, create, and transform into light. That's right, he can move and attack at the speed of light, while firing destructive laser beams that can pierce through ships or enemies as naturally as he breathes. He is obviously quite strong, considering how he was able to go toe-to-toe with the legendary Dark King Rayleigh, and also did considerably well against our boy, Luffy, even though he was conflicted throughout the entire arc because of the moral dilemma of trying to kill his best friend. Vegapunk, Chapter 1089. Now, Kizaru's motto is Unclear Justice. While he is ruthless when dealing with pirates, he is also carefree and rather ambiguous about his moral leanings. He sees himself as simply a cog in the machine, someone who has to do their job, nothing more, nothing less. He was completely ruthless in the Sabaudi Archipelago arc, and you bet that if it wasn't for Rayleigh and Kuma, he would have eradicated the Straw Hat Pirates for attacking a celestial dragon. Chapter 512. At the end of Marineford, he fired his lasers at Lost Submarine, even after Ben Beckman threatened to shoot him. Chapter 580. He was just as aggressive during the Egghead arc, in how he followed orders and ultimately killed Vegapunk's main body. Chapter 1107. But then again, he's not a complete robot either. Killing Vegapunk hurt him badly, and he ended up snapping at the Fleet Admiral. That was actually quite a surprising moment, especially because Akainu immediately apologized for doubting his work ethic. Chapter 1124. Overall, Kizaru now has a bounty on his head thanks to the Cross Guild. As a Marine Admiral, he is worth 3 crowns. Since 1 crown is worth 1 billion berries, this means that the current bounty on Kizaru's head is 3 billion berries. That's the same as Luffy's current bounty. Akainu, the Red Dog, is the admiral who was promoted to the position of Fleet Admiral during the time skip. His real name is Sakazuki, and right now, he is both the strongest and the highest ranked marine on the seas. To put into perspective just how influential his existence is, the bounty issued by the Cross Guild for Fleet Admiral Sakazuki is 5 crowns. That's 5 billion berries. Literally, the only 2 known characters who had a higher bounty were Whitebeard and the Pirate King, Goldie Roger. Now, out of the 3 original admirals, Akainu is the only one who follows the philosophy of the Marine headquarters, as encouraged by the world government itself. We're talking about absolute justice. Chapter 96. Absolute justice is the belief in eradicating all evil at any cost. It's the idea that the ends justify the means. We know that Akainu had no problem burning down a ship full of civilians during the Ohara incident. He did it simply because there was a tiny probability that one of the scholars might have been hiding on the ship. Ironically, Aokiji ended up allowing Nico Robin to escape, and so, despite the deaths, the will of Ohara is still alive and well in Nico Robin. Aokiji has also been wary of Akainu ever since, which is why he left the Marines after Akainu won the fight between them and took over as the new Fleet Admiral. Now, ever since Akainu became Fleet Admiral, the Marines' pursuit of absolute justice has become even stronger because, unlike the previous Fleet Admirals, Akainu embodies absolute justice, and also actually sees the Marines and justice as simply an extension of himself. Yes, it makes sense why he killed Ace, but he also doesn't mind killing dissidents. For example, he killed a random Marine on screen and was about to kill Kobe if it weren't for Shanks appearing at the right time. Chapter 579. Another thing about Akainu is that he had no problem yelling at the 5 elders for declaring Doflamingo's resignation from the warlords as a false report. He knew the world's confusion would damage their trust in the Marines and ruin the Marines' reputation. Chapter 793. It has also been implied that Akainu is aware of the existence of the one who is above the 5 elders. Chapter 793, page 4. As for his devil fruit, Akainu has the Magu Magu no Mi, a Logia devil fruit that allows him to create, control, and transform his body into magma. This magma is insanely hot and explosive, and it was able to burn right through Ace's body of flames. In fact, it is said that among all devil fruits, Akainu's Magu Magu no Mi has the highest offensive power. He was able to burn half of Whitebeard's face, and it's fair to assume that Akainu's fruit is also awakened because of what he did to half of Punk Hazard during the fight with Aokiji. Finally, there is the fact that Akainu is the one who gave Luffy the permanent scar he has on his chest. The scar means that they are fated to go up against each other. And of course, just like Aokiji, he is also in the race for the One Piece. Fujitora, the Wisteria Tiger, is one of the 2 admirals who joined during the time skip. His real name is Issho, and he is by far the most unusual admiral on this list. He is blind, his devil fruit is a Paramecia type instead of a Logia, and he is also the most moral out of them all. You see, Fujitora follows what can be considered moral justice, unlike the absolute justice of the Marines, who prioritize eliminating evil above all. Fujitora's justice puts the people first. He prioritizes their safety over the pursuit of criminals. As he once said, it is more important to take into account the number of lives to be protected, rather than the number of enemies. Chapter 705. At the end of the Dressrosa arc, he apologized to the citizens for the Marines' failure to stop Doflamingo from coming to power. He did so on a public broadcast using transponder snails. Chapter 792. Fleet Admiral Sakazuki was furious because it tarnished the reputation of the Marines, but Fujitora simply replied that if their reputation is tarnished just because they own up to a mistake, it means they never had a reputation to begin with. Sakazuki told him to not return to any Marine base until he brought him Trafalgar Law and Straw Hat Luffy's heads. Fujitora accepted this, but still let Luffy and his allies go because, in the end, they were the ones who finally brought down Doflamingo. Chapter 793. What's so surreal about Fujitora is how pleased he was by Luffy. Chapter 799. The thing is,
Fujitora wasn't always blind. He blinded himself because he couldn't bear to watch all the pain and suffering in the world. However, his interaction with Luffy made him regret blinding himself because he wanted to see what Luffy looks like. Later during the reverie, Fujitora put forward the resolution to abolish the 7 warlord system, along with King Riku of Dressrosa and King Cobra of Alabasta. He also allowed the slaves freed by the Revolutionary Army to escape Marie-Joise. He had no problem with the fact that this was the domain of the Celestial Dragons. He even fought Green Bull, a fellow admiral, just to make sure that the slaves and the revolutionaries could escape. Chapter 1085. Of course, from the perspective of the Celestial Dragons, this would be an unprecedented act of audacity, but Fujitora didn't face any consequences other than the injuries he received while fighting Green Bull. When it comes to abilities and skills, Fujitora is a swordsman who wields one of the 12 supreme grade swords in the story. The sword's name is Yakuza Kasen, and Fujitora also uses it as a walking cane. His devil fruit is the Zushi no Mi, a paramecia-type devil fruit that allows him to manipulate gravity. This power gives him overwhelming destructive capabilities as well as incredible versatility. He can summon meteors from the sky to crush his enemies, create localized gravitational fields to pin opponents to the ground, or even make himself and others float. The scope of his powers is incredible because, at the end of Dressrosa, he was able to lift all of the rubble from the city. During the 3-way face-off with Doflamingo and Law, Fujitora summoned a massive meteor. Chapter 713. Later, during the reverie, he summoned another one. Now, Fujitora is skilled in both armament haki and observation haki. It seems his primary expertise might be in observation haki, as he uses it to compensate for his blindness, but we don't know enough about this right now. Still, as a Marine Admiral, Fujitora is a 3 billion bounty man, with a legendary sense of morality and an incredible aura. In the SBS section of Volume 110, we learned more about his background. He used to be the military chief of the Aoi Kingdom, but the kingdom was destroyed by a war, and he was treated as a war criminal. It was also during this time that he blinded himself. Eventually, he fell into gambling and ended up with quite a lot of debt. To pay back the debt, they made him work as a bodyguard. Then, because Issho was strong, the world government heard about him, bought the entire place, and drafted him into the Marines. Ryokugyu, the Green Bull, is the latest admiral to be introduced into the story. His real name is Aramaki, and he is both a world government apologist and an Akainu fanatic. Truly fatherless behavior. His motto is determined justice, and he believes that systematic violence and discrimination are necessary to maintain order. Or, to put it even more simply, he believes fear is the ultimate tool for maintaining order. He also fully acknowledges that the Celestial Dragons have superiority over the rest of humanity. Seriously, while Akainu's absolute justice is definitely hardcore, at least he doesn't kiss the world government's ass. At the end of Wano, he showed up to take Luffy's head in order to please Akainu, defeated the remnants of the Beast Pirates very easily, and was able to hold his own against Momonosuke, Yamato, and the Scabbards. Chapter 1053. But I guess Oda found him annoying too, because the next thing you know, Shanks is blasting his Wi-Fi Conqueror's haki all the way from the seas of Wano. And that alone is enough to make Green Bull cower in fear. Chapter 1054. He calls it quits and ends up going back home to the Marine headquarters. Now, I know the memes about this were insane, but it makes sense why he retreated. He is just one admiral. How could he go up against the Red Hair Pirates and the alliance that took down both Kaido and Big Mom? That's right, Green Bull might act like a clown, but he is not weak. His devil fruit is the Mori Mori no Mi, a Logia that gives him the ability to control, create, and transform into plant life. He can grow massive vines to attack or restrain his opponents, drain nutrients from his surroundings to weaken enemies or heal himself, and even regenerate his body by drawing energy from the ground. A testament to this is how he was able to live without food for 3 whole years. Chapter 905. He also easily manhandled King, Queen, and the other Beast Pirates. You see, he is the type of fighter who does best in battles of attrition because, just like a forest, he'll use anything to thrive. By the way, he carries a sword with him. While we won't go into the many theories, it's likely that he is also a skilled swordsman. And just like Fujitora and Kizaru, he also has a 3 billion bounty on his head. His past was also revealed in the SBS section of volume 110. Apparently, he grew up to become a police officer, which tracks, but after an incident involving a woman, he was thrown into prison. He stayed there until the world government learned about his strength and pardoned him. Sengoku the Buddha is a Marine Admiral from Roger's era. He is portrayed as Garp's equal, and is the only known Marine Admiral to have been a confirmed Conqueror's Haki user. This makes him the only Admiral capable of using all 3 types of Haki. Both Roger and Whitebeard see him in a similar light as Garp, and it is well established that Sengoku fought Whitebeard, Roger, and Shiki multiple times back in those days. Now, Sengoku is also the only Admiral to have a mythical Zoan Devil Fruit, chapter 578. It's the Hito Hito no Mi, model Daibutsu, which is the Japanese word for Great Buddha. The abilities of this Devil Fruit weren't revealed, but we saw during Marineford that it can unleash powerful shockwave-based attacks. Naturally, since he is Sengoku the Buddha, he is said to be the symbol of wisdom for the Marines. However, some of his actions as an admiral say otherwise. He was the admiral who organized the Buster Call on Ohara, after all, chapter 395. Still, his motto is reigning justice, which is about ensuring that the world stays safe and peaceful. He remained an admiral until after Don Quixote Rosanete's death, but was promoted sometime within the past 14 years. Following Marineford, however, he resigned because he couldn't accept the world government's decision to keep the escape of top criminals from Impel Down hidden from the general public. He wanted Aokiji to become the next Fleet Admiral, but that didn't work out, did it? Chapter 594. Currently, he serves as an Inspector General for the Marines. Kong was the Fleet Admiral during the God Valley incident, so we can assume that he was an Admiral before or during the era of Roxy Zebek. Now, Kong is one of the few characters with even less screen time than Monkey D. Dragon. We don't know if he has Conqueror's Haki or a Devil Fruit, but what we do know is that he is the current Commander-in-Chief of the world government. This means his authority is second only to the 5 Elders and Imu himself. He was disappointed when Garp and Sengoku chose to step down from their positions, but he respected them and gave them symbolic positions to keep their legacy intact. Chapter 594. Overall, while we have no clue about Kong's skills or his abilities, we can still assume from his massive, scarred physique and position as the former Fleet Admiral that he was also most definitely an absolute monster in combat. There's no other way to go about it. If Akainu, the current Fleet Admiral, is so overwhelmingly strong, and Sengoku is recognized as a Marine legend, then Kong, who came before them, must have been at least close to their level.